Okay, we're going to start our lecture, Improving the Lecture. Hold on here. Let me get us going. And I'm using Screencast to record this. And it's kind of tricky because I have to record it with PowerPoint and also then switch out to the web to show a video clip. Anyway, here we are to talk about improving the lecture. So the first question I have for you is, how should we change the lecture? So in order to think about that, you need to think what's good about the lecture and what needs improvement on the lecture. Now, if I were in a normal class, I'd stop right now and have you discuss with an elbow partner some assets and liabilities. But let me just share a couple with you. Some assets. Lectures can present material not otherwise available to students. Lectures can present large amounts of information to large audiences. And they present little risk for students. Students can be pretty passive in the classroom. However, that's the problem. Students' attention wanes after 15 minutes or so, and lectures don't give faculty or teachers much feedback about what students have learned. So, if you were redesigning a lecture, how would you make improvements? And what improvements would you make? Well, again, I could give you time to discuss this, but since we're in an online webinar, I'll just move forward on it. And here are some changes to the lecture that would be very helpful. One would be, how can we increase student engagement? Because research shows that students who are engaged in a lecture do better than students who weren't. How can we build students' information management skills so that they retrieve information more effectively? You know, the students are only good as the notes they write down, and some students don't write down very good notes. So developing students' note-taking skills would also be an effective way to improve it. More ways to improve the lecture. We need to deepen students' comprehension. It's not, did you just cover it, but did students understand it? And building students' background knowledge and making sure they are coming to the lecture with the appropriate background knowledge is a good way to improve the lecture. And finally, using 21st century skills, requiring students to be creative, critical thinkers, problem solvers, collaborators, and communicators will help improve the lecture. Pretty big list of things. So what can we do? Well, when you think back on the concerns that you raised with your elbow partner, which of these 6 categories do they fit into? Or did they fit into an entirely different category altogether? In order to start our lecture, I'd like you to download and print out the 4 Principles Organizer, which is an example of guided notes. So you can see that across the top, principle, challenge, techniques, effects, and a visual icon. And down the side are the 4 principles I'll review. I filled in 1 box for each row, and the rest of them need to be filled in by you. Now, if I were a high school teacher, I'd probably require this to be turned in, at least in the beginning of teaching students how to be effective note takers. But as college students, I trust you to be filling it in, or at least mentally filling it in on your own. Okay, the first principle is, the stronger the connection, the stronger the memory. So here are 3 ways that we can strengthen those connections. 1, we can connect information to experiences. So we can draw on students' experiences. If we're going to talk about creating a budget, we might say, have you ever run a lemonade stand? And how much did you charge for your lemonade? Da, 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 da. We can also connect the new information to existing knowledge. So we need to call on what students already know. And we can connect new information to a sense of purpose, to the value of the learning, and to the reasons for why it's worth the students' time to learn. By the way, this little image here is a Smart Art visual aid. So you can see that I chose that specifically, 3 ideas all leading to an outcome. And the outcome will be increased ability to control irrelevant stimuli, focus attention, and create lasting memories on the part of the student. So how do we do that? Well, we can use educational hooks. In fishing, you use a hook, and in teaching, you can use a hook as well. This is also known as an anticipatory set, but the idea is that you catch students' interest. And there are different kinds of hooks that can be used. One might be a mastery hook, where you ask students to recall and repeat relevant information. So write down what you learned about leaves yesterday. Second kind of hook is an understanding hook, where you raise curiosity by focusing on a controversy or a discrepant event, like, why do some trees' leaves stay green all year long while others change color? Third type of hook is a self-expressive hook, where you engage students' imagination in a what-if kind of thing. So how would it be different if none of our trees ever lost their leaves? And then the fourth type of hook is a interpersonal hook, where you encourage students to make a personal connection to the topic. How do the changes in the seasons affect how people live as a society and in families? How do you do it? So here's 4 kinds of hooks. Now, if we were in class, we would stop, and individually you'd come up with a hook, and then I'd put you in small groups to share your hooks and listen to each other's hooks. This is an example of a progress monitoring question, and it's allowing everybody to get on the same page with respect to hooks. Okay, so we've now talked about the first principle. The stronger the connection, the stronger the memory. You should stop, pause this presentation, and fill in the techniques, effects, and a visual icon of your choice. The challenge is already filled in for you, capturing and holding students' attention. Okay, well, welcome back. We're now going to look at the second principle, which is the clearer the organization, the stronger the memory. And so you want your lectures to be very well organized, because if it's not organized on the PowerPoint presentation, you're not going to deliver it in an organized fashion. And so you want to use font size, color, numbering, type, titles, and subtitles. You want to label images and graphs or call them out. You want to post questions and activities within the slides. And you want to give students guided notes that students fill in during the lecture, and supporting documents which include information that might not be easily put in a PowerPoint slide. One of the best ways to disengage your students is to post some data up on your slide that they can't read, and then ask them questions about it. So this image here is an image of the Smart Art graphic that you can find in PowerPoint. You're going to be required to create a couple of Smart Art graphics for your interactive lecture. So ponder to yourself, you've got a lecture topic for your the unit or whatever you're creating. What would be a good visual organizer for that? And how would you organize that information in a Smart Art graphic? And also, which would be better posed as a supporting document? Okay, well, that's it on the second principle, which is the clearer the organization, the stronger the memory. So you can see in this row, I filled in the technique, which is a visual organizer. Pause the lecture right now and fill in the rest of that row. Okay, welcome back to principle 3. The steeper the processing, the stronger the memory. So how can we help students create interpersonal connections to the content? Can you see it? Can you feel it? Can you smell it, taste it, hear it? What emotions do you associate with it? Is there a story behind it? Sometimes you can use a single image to do this. Sometimes it takes more information. Always, though, you need to think of how you are dual coding your lectures so that students are receiving information in 2 ways, and it is appealing to multiple levels of their thinking. So one way, as we've already pointed out, would be to use visual aids, physical aids that you could pass around the classroom, and conduct demonstrations. A second way would be to vary the tone and level of emotion in your voice. I also like to walk around the classroom. Students have to follow me as I move around.